Joining us now, Governor, Virginia, Democrat, first term, fresh off a significant victory, Governor Ralph Northam. Governor, great to have you with us.
Good morning, John. I hope you're doing well and hope your listeners are as well. Thanks for having me on.
Never better. Hey, I got to tell you this. Nobody could have pulled this off but you. The legislature just passed a great budget. So we've got increase in pay for teachers, for state employees, for state troopers. That's good. Rainy day fund stronger than ever. But look, I was in favor of Medicaid expansion. Obamacare is not going to get repealed. It's not going to get cut back. They've already attempted that. That failed. It's the law. You're going to have to deal with it. But I thought it was unbelievably astute of you to negotiate conservative reforms into Medicaid expansion and waivers approved by the Trump administration to get this done. And I thought the way you deftly worked through this with Kirk Cox was nothing short of statesmanship.
Well, I appreciate it. And, hopefully this was a good day for Virginia. We'll increase coverage for up to 400,000 working Virginians. And, I think as important, John, is it'll bring resources back to Virginia that we desperately need. And, I credit, folks on both sides of the aisle. As you know, I've been here for 10 years, and I have great relationships with folks like Kirk Cox and Chris Jones. And, of course, I've been in the Senate, so I know Emmett and Frank and, some of those folks. We really reached out into the, rural Virginia, and I had great talks and discussions with folks like Ben Chafin and Terry Kilgore and Todd Pillion, and we talked about how can we bring back rural Virginia, and that is very important to me. I'm from the Eastern Shore, and so we talked about investing in our education, investing in infrastructure, wanting to continue to support the coal industry out there. They're very dependent on that, especially metallurgical coal, which there's still quite a demand for. And so at the end of the day, you know how these things work. We had tough negotiations. We all gave, and that's what I like about the folks that I work with. We can agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, we did what was in the best interest of Virginia. So to your point, I think we have a great budget, and we have some raises for our teachers. As you know, our teachers in Virginia are getting on average about $9,200 less than the national average, and if we're going to recruit and retain talented teachers, we've got to pay them. We're giving our state employees, our law enforcement folks a raise, and something that is very, very important to me, and it should be important to all of Virginians, is this opioid crisis. And, I remind people, John, there are consequences to limited resources. We lost 1,227, believe it or not, 1,227 Virginians last year to opioid overdose. And, we know what we need to do to fix this, but we've all got to work together, and it's going to take some resources. So I think the most important message out of this, John, is yes, we've got a good budget. We're giving more Virginians access to health care, but I think it sets the stage for us to do even bigger and better things in Virginia. And what we really need to focus on, if we're going to make sure that all Virginians have a good job, is we've got to be able to train the workforce, and it's going to take some investment to do that. But we know the jobs of the 21st century are different, and we've really got to work together, folks from both sides of the aisle, and make sure that we're training these individuals. And if we do, businesses in Virginia will grow, and we'll also attract the new businesses. So I think yesterday or day before, was a good day for Virginia.
Look, no question about it. And again, the way you negotiated this and, kept it out of the media and did it with a lot of fanfare, very different style than Governor McAuliffe, right? His is just different. But I think in this instance, to get this done, I think your approach was really the only way you were going to make it happen. Had you did the bang the shoe on the table, threaten thing, I don't think you ever would have gotten this done. So I think your approach fit the time, and I, for one, value what you've done, and I think it was the right thing. This is a great budget for the Commonwealth of Virginia, and as far as Medicaid expansion, again, those listeners out there that are upset over it, that are, blasting Senator Jill Vogel and Frank Wagner and Emmett Hanger and Ben Chafin, look, this is not welfare. I don't know how many times I have to say this over and over. This is not welfare. These people work. they're working 2 and 3 jobs trying to move up the economic ladder. They don't make enough money to buy insurance. Their jobs don't give them insurance. They can't buy into the insurance. They can't afford the insurance, but they make too much money to qualify for traditional Medicaid or the Obamacare subsidies. So they're simply caught in the middle, and they don't have insurance. And they're trying to get out of the bottom of the economic ladder. They're trying to move up. And if we can't help them, why are we here? I mean, what's the purpose of it? It doesn't make any sense to me, coupled with the fact that, quite frankly, 85% of the people that are going to benefit for this in Virginia voted for Trump. Now, speaking of Trump, you said some, things about him during the campaign that I took issue with. I kind of understood it, but I took issue with it. A large part of our economy is dependent on the federal government and your relationship with the administration. What have you done, Governor, to improve your relationship with the Trump administration and how that's going to come back and impact Virginia?
Yeah, well, thank you for that, John. And, I am a veteran. I served in the Army for 8 years. Yesterday morning, I toured Norfolk Naval Base. I met with NATO. One of the things that the Trump administration is doing is building up our military, and I believe in carrying a big stick, and that's the way we keep things under control. And so to build up our military, that brings more people into Hampton Roads. We obviously don't want to be solely dependent on the military and government contracting, but it's a big part of our economy there. So that's very good for Virginia. Newport News Shipbuilding, they're hiring over 4,000 new people to build these beautiful warships and submarines that they do so well. So those are good things for Virginia. And as you know, I was up in Washington about a month ago. I met with President Trump actually on 2 different occasions. We talked about infrastructure. There are a couple projects in Virginia that are very important to us. I-81 is one of them. The trucks out there, the roads are very dangerous. To open up Southwest, we need to fix I-81. So he was very interested in that. And then something else that we talked about that is very, very important to the economy of Virginia is our port. And we want to make sure that our port in Hampton Roads is the most competitive, #1 port on the East Coast. And we need money to dredge the channel to 55 feet and to widen the channel. We have that in this budget that we just passed day before yesterday, and the president was very interested in that. So, matter of fact, he, I don't know if you remember, he said put it at the top of the list. So, so we, to your point, I don't agree with everything. I think we can all agree that if that, if that was the case, that wouldn't be good. But there are ways that we can work together, and I look forward to doing that as we move forward.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. We're with Democratic Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Ralph Northam. This was just completed, I guess, officially his first legislative session in Virginia, and had a huge victory, huge, as they say, in getting a very powerful Medicaid expansion bill through as part of the budget, with conservative reforms negotiated with the conservatives in the House and the Senate in Virginia. Did a fabulous job on that. Governor, let's go to just on your answer for the Trump administration. Trump is going to win again. I have no doubt in my mind. We're going to win again, only bigger. So it's good that you get a good relationship with him, because he's going to be there a while. So that's a good thing. Governor, I've got a question here that I promised I would ask you that was tweeted out to me by your good friends at Blue Virginia. And they said, please ask Governor Northam if he agrees with his Communications Director, Brian Coy, that grassroots environmental activists are not acting in good faith, in quotations, as Brian was caught saying in a hot mic moment at WTOP's Ask the Expert earlier this week.
I'm sorry, John. What is this? You said Blue Virginia. Is this a blog you're talking about?
Yeah, they asked a question, and they said that your Communications Director, Brian Coy, said that environmental activists were not acting in good faith. Do you have any position on that?
John, I don't have time to read the blogs. I'm governing Virginia. We've got a lot of lot of important things on the plate. As I said, this budget, expansion of health care, making sure that people in Virginia have jobs. So I'm not even sure, what that's all about. But I can tell you that I am very involved in running this state, big responsibility, and I'll continue to do what's in the best interest of Virginians.
Pathway forward, coming off this great victory, getting this budget done, cobbling it together in a bipartisan way. Washington should probably learn from what you guys did. What is your visionary agenda now? What are the key things you're going to be focused on between now and General Assembly 2019? What's the pathway forward?
Great question, and I think, as I said earlier, the relationships I have with folks on both sides of the aisle, I think we're really in a position to get some good things done in Virginia. Number one, John, as you know, there's a new tax bill in Washington, so we're going to need to make some adjustments in Virginia. Revenue actually is very good in Virginia right now, but tax reform, certainly comprehensive tax reform, is something that the Speaker and the Chairman of House Appropriations are very involved with. So we're going to put together some folks and work on tax reform. We already introduced legislation this past year on regulatory reform. We're going through each agency in Virginia, seeing what's working well, what's not, and at the end of the day, making it more efficient and saving taxpayers money. So that's something that we'll be working on together. I already mentioned the importance of workforce development and being able to train 21st century folks for those jobs. Something that I know you're a fan of my wife, Pam, and she, by the way, is doing a great job, doing good work for Virginia, but we're working together on early childhood education. We know that there's a tremendous learning potential in our children before they ever get to kindergarten, so working with faith-based groups, working with the business community, making sure that all children in Virginia have, access to early childhood education. So those are some of the things that we're working on, but at the end of the day, John, what is so important to Virginia and so important to me is jobs. And, if we can provide jobs that people can work in Virginia, make a good wage, raise their families, then, at the end of my 4 years, that I will be satisfied.
Governor, when you talk about you're looking to do tax reform, what are some of the pieces of tax reform or changing the tax code that you feel would benefit jobs and some of the things that you mentioned? What are some of the going to be your principles for this?
Well, it's a great question. And number one, John, we've got to be competitive with other states because, if our tax code is too cumbersome, people don't understand it, they can get better deals in other states, then obviously businesses and people are going to go to other states. So we need to have a tax system that is simpler, that's fair, that people can understand. I mean, we've talked about things like BPOL, the machinery taxes, helping, small businesses get started for a few years. So what I plan to do, and as you know, I'm a business owner in Hampton Roads. I started our medical practice there, but I want to put some together, not a large group, but a small group of individuals that really understand the tax code, where we can look at our system, look at other states' systems, and make sure that we have a comprehensive plan here that, again, makes Virginia competitive. It wasn't that long ago, John, that Virginia was the number one state in this great country of ours in which to do business, and we're going to get back there. That's my commitment to Virginia in the next 4 years.
The potential of getting a new huge distribution plantation from Amazon, I know Virginia is still in play. What are you doing specifically, Governor, in order to sweeten the pot for them and maybe make Northern Virginia a viable option?
Yeah, great question. We've had some discussions with them. We've showed them 4 sites, I think very good sites in Northern Virginia. So I think we've put a good package on the table. And, I think what they're interested in really, and not to be a broken record, but is can we train their workforce? And so we're really aggressive now, working with our colleges and universities, working with the business community. As you know, there are a lot of jobs out there that you don't need a 4-year education for. So community colleges, we really need to promote those, apprenticeships, even at the high school level. focus on vocational and technical training. So we know if we can train the workforce, they will come. And when I say they will come, businesses will come. And whether it's Amazon or Apple or any other business out there, we've got to do that. I think being inclusive in Virginia, making sure that our doors are open, our lights are on, that we welcome people to Virginia is very important. Obviously, things like transportation and infrastructure. I was really pleased going back to this past session, and this was a bipartisan effort to get $154 million of dedicated resources for Metro. Very, very important for Northern Virginia, and so and Greater Washington area. So Virginia took the lead on that, and now Washington and Maryland have fallen in line. So that's important. And then affordable housing, that's another issue that's important, for these companies. So we recognize what they're looking for, and just want to be able to cater to their needs and do everything that we can to attract those businesses to Virginia.
John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. We're with one term, just installed new governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam. He completed, for those just joining us, his first legislative session in Virginia. Everybody has given him an A+, a tremendous success, and his leadership is what got Medicaid expansion through in Virginia with conservative reform. So Mike Pence did it in Indiana. Matt Blevins did it in Kentucky, two of the most conservative governors out there. But ours is only better, and that's because of the bipartisan way that the governor was able to get this through. And, Governor, when I first got here, they talked to me about the Virginia way, and I didn't know what the hell that meant. I'm like, well, what does that mean, the Virginia way? And, of course, then, McAuliffe comes in and whatever. But I think this last session, that was kind of like, I think what everybody meant when I first got here in 2009 was this is the Virginia way. There's just a way to do business that's a little bit different from the bombast you get in Washington. So I want to compliment you on that. I've got a minute. Final question. You're bringing up training, workforce development. A lot of our listeners very upset in Virginia about the skyrocketing cost of traditional university education. Like I get a bunch of people saying, I can't send my child to the University of Virginia. I can't send them to Virginia Tech. I can't send them to VCU. It's too much money. It's crazy. Meantime, we got, football stadiums going up all over the place. How do you deal with that?
Well, we have had conversations with our colleges and universities, and, we want to do everything that we can to make it affordable for all Virginians. At the same time, John, I think people have to realize that, if we're going to attract talent to our colleges and universities, and as you know, talent attracts other talent, we've got to invest. And so, as we move forward, hopefully our revenues in Virginia will continue to do well. And this is, again, it's a priority of mine, and I think it's a priority of folks on both sides of the aisle. And, how can we better invest in our colleges and universities and do everything that we can, as you say, to make sure that they are affordable, so that make sure that everybody can live the American dream. So it is important, but at the same time, it takes commitment, it takes investment in higher education. And if we're going to be the number one state in this country, we've got to invest in education, and I plan to do that as we move forward.
Governor, we're out of time. I want to thank you for being with us. Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia, great victory on the Virginia budget and Medicaid expansion in 2018. Governor, thanks for being with us. Thanks for the time.
It's always
really
good to be with you, John. Come visit us in Richmond.